the New York City region is complex. You've got a ton of people living in a relatively small area. If you look at a map, you have the oceans to the south, and you also have heavily forested areas to the north and to the west. So you have 3 different regions with 3 very specific characteristics, and then they all mix together and they do interesting things that are unique.
It sounds like magic, but it's actually just chemistry.
The goals of Gotham are to really understand air pollution around the greater New York area and understand how it reacts with surrounding air that's coming from the ocean, as well as air that's coming from land over forests, and see how this mixture, this big soup, comes together and leads to local air pollution.
So there are emissions from plants and trees. If you've ever smelled a Christmas tree, that smell. There are emissions from the ocean, so waves breaking generate different gases and particles. And then there's also emissions from human activity. So if you drive a car, or if you cook food, all of those emissions go into the air.
This region is highly understudied per the number of people that live here. I can say just from talking with friends that live on Long Island that are saying like, oh, the forecasts here are, they're horrible. And so I'm like, that's why we're here. We're here to be able to help with weather and air quality forecasts to understand so that we can improve the models.
One of the problems that we have in terms of understanding air quality is that most of the way we think about it is by going and making measurements on the ground. And that might make sense if you're worried about what you are breathing in the city. But it only gives us one perspective. A lot of that air pollution is then going to go up into the atmosphere and move and then come back down to someone else so that they're breathing it. So to understand that component and to understand the chemistry that actually makes more ozone and makes more particles, all of that being damaging to human health, we have to be able to go and see what's happening up in the atmosphere. And so that's what's really cool about this project.
The NCAR C-130 is a very large, slow-flying aircraft. We love to use it to do things like surveys over urban regions and marine ocean measurements at the surface. Low, slow flying is better for the resolution of our measurements.
You couldn't really tackle a project of this magnitude and scientific complexity with an aircraft that's smaller than a C-130. Of the maybe 20 different instruments we have on the plane, each one of them is tailored specifically to a gas or a host of gases or a host of aerosols to address one very specific analytical measurement. One of the big keys of Gotham is that we're really investigating the diurnal cycle of these processes, because we know that different processes happen whether these are occurring during the day or at night with no sunlight. So what we're doing is we are trying to understand the mechanisms by looking at the composition during the day. And then as the day moves into the night, we have phase 2, which will be afternoon, evening flights. And then the third phase is going to be the sunrise phase, where we will look at conditions just before the sun comes up around 3 a.m. up to maybe 2-3 hours past sunlight. What we're trying to do ultimately is to make this the best place we can live in.
I grew up sort of around here. I've actually loved being home. And so being able to do research important for the people that I grew up with, that helped raise me in a way, feels very satisfying on a personal level. And one of the things that I hope to do with findings from this is to improve the atmospheric models that are used by EPA and NOAA to make air quality forecasts. So whenever you hear in the summer it's an ozone alert day or an air quality alert day, and it's meant to give warnings to people, maybe not to exercise outside at certain times of the day, And when we improve the underlying fundamental chemistry in these models, we can better protect humans.